Thanks for coming back. Welcome to the HeySue Podcast, your home for coaching and now a lot of talk about selling. My book, Never Ask for the Sale, comes out from Hachette on September 9th, 2025, and you can pre-order it now. Just visit heysue.com/book and get your copy. And you know that I've turned the attention of the podcast to interviewing sales leaders, CEOs, founders that I admire because of their prowess for selling without making it look like selling. I believe that these leaders that I've elected to bring to you really exhibit elements that are consistent with the passionate ambivalence that my book centers around. Today, we're joined by Todd Reed. Todd is an artist. He is the founder and president of Todd Reed, Inc. If you don't know what Todd Reed is or who he is, stop right now and go visit www.toddreed.com and see the beautiful objects, the jewels, the pieces, the watches that Todd Reed and his team have created. They're magnificent. And I am so happy to be joined by Todd today to talk about his philosophy of building his business. So now, please join me in welcoming Todd Reed. Hi, Todd. I'm so glad to see you.
Thank you, Sue. Hi, thanks for having me on your show today.
Okay, Todd, I think it's really important since I regard you as one of the greatest artists that I've ever crossed paths with in any way, that we just fill the audience in about what preceded this conversation. Because I figured out something you're not good at. You're a great golfer. You're an amazing artist. What are you not good at?
Technology is the thorn in my side. I know that business really relies on computers nowadays, and it just is the thing that sets me back day after day after day is trying to deal with the passwords and the technology. Um, that's it. That's my limitation.
Well, thank you for punching through. We've been, for those of you who are listening, we've been through a few different iterations, and Todd has gone between his house and his office, which is fortunately not a long distance. But here we are, and it's such an honor to be with you. My story is you don't do a lot of stuff like this, so it's a real treat to get to have a public conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Okay. So I've already told everybody to go look at your website, to drop everything and go look at your website. Hopefully they're good at technology and they have done that. And so now they're back. You obviously have very strong technical visual people behind you because your visual presentation online is fantastic. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about how you got started doing what you do.
Okay, I'd love to. And I'll touch back also to the technology that you're liking right now, which my daughter is doing it. When I was 17, I wanted to start a heritage brand, which would be a brand that stood for the values of the art and the principles of the company rather than the revenues or the exact product that we sold. So we have built a heritage brand built on a really sort of simple set of principles, which are always make beautiful and innovative jewelry and always deliver a beautiful and innovative experience. This is my simple business plan. When I wrote the business plan up, it was intended to outlive myself. It was supposed to outlive my kids. We wanted to build something that was strong, consistent, stable, beautiful, in the luxury world. And now that my daughter is actually starting to take over the company, the first place that we put her is in technology and on the World Wide Web and on social media and these places that she's absolutely thriving in. So she's responsible for those visuals.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm so glad it's not always a lock. You can want to create a heritage business and not have somebody in your lineage who wants to keep it going. You can still keep it going with other people, but what a delight that your daughter wanted to get involved. That's great.
It's a real privilege and it's something that really means a lot to me. My hope is that I mean, she's 23. We talked about this for her whole life. I really think and hope that she would keep it going, and that's our plan. She has a lot of ideas for it, which is so fun because it's a heritage brand. So we're supposed to shift generations, but we're supposed to hang on to our core values and principles of how we do things, including sales, which is an interesting dynamic as companies shift from generation to generation. How
Yes,
that?
totally. I would love to, there are pictures of your studio and workshop. I don't
Mhm.
know what word you use to describe it
Mhm.
online, but I would love for you to just share what your office is like so people can visualize it. And also, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the office you had before this one and your decision, I think, to downsize pretty intentionally and what led to that decision.
Thank you. Great questions. Yeah, my office now is set up really clean. We have one central office with our general manager, Elaine, who runs our whole company beautifully and got you set up after I worked 3 hours to do it. It took her 3 seconds. She's completely core to the company. Everything works out of this little hub. So this is where we have our vault. This is where we have our technology. This is where all the phones are and the questions get answered. And that office is surrounded by, on one side, all of the making, and on the other side, all of the selling. Um, so visually, there's like a core in the middle with all this technology, the vaults, the stuff, the computers, all the knowledge, all the binders that have all the information, the standards and everything. And then on the periphery is where the creativity more than likely would happen in terms of how we're going to sell, how we're going to clientele, how we're going to do events. And then the juicier part, which is how we're actually going to make these products in an innovative and beautiful way, going back to the business plan. That's all we're trying to do. So if I fail at that, it doesn't really work. So yeah, so that central core is like the business, and everything else around it is the creativity.
Okay, Todd. You tell me about the moment where you think you were at the absolute peak of your popularity for your
Mm.
work. I moved to Boulder in 2010. You're headquartered in Boulder, and my story is that was happening sort of in the tens. But I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's interesting, and it gets to my answering of your longer question, which was this transition to downsize. We had 65 employees in our old studio, and we had another two offices, one located on the East Coast and one located on the West Coast. And what I learned when we originally had met, was that I was really having a hard time with doing business from love or from fear. This was our first conversation, and I realized that I had both. I was terrified of all the things that I didn't know about business and how to do it. And I love my business, the opportunity that we have in the creative space, and to be able to touch community in the way that we do. And so I've actually still am somewhat torn. Back then, we were still on the rise. I felt like me having more managers, a C-level team, more salespeople, more makers, more managers would allow me more time for the creativity. And maybe it was because I didn't do it well, maybe I didn't have enough experience, but I started to really lose the creativity in lieu of managing the guiding principles. Even though we had amazing managers, much more talented than myself, there was something that was core to it being my value system that I set up versus, so if I hire a great sales manager, their job is to sell. If I said, well, hey, I don't want you to really sell that much, then they're kind of, it's like having a horse in the pen that isn't really doing its thing. I simply decided before the pandemic to downsize, to stop doing so much outside sales, to stop trying to be the best jewelry company on the planet, and really focus on my core values, which were simply to make a beautiful product and to deliver a beautiful experience. And I really lost the forest through the trees for a bunch of years. It was all good for me because it made our brand bigger, more people knew our name on the World Wide Web. There were more conversations that involved us. Um, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. But the time came where I really had to look, am I acting more from fear or love? And I really determined that I was coming at it as terrified, and I had kind of lost the love. So I was just kind of hanging on to things. And when I thinned it all out, moved locations, built a beautiful new space that seemed to be what felt more true for me, and minimized the whole operation. It felt more creative for me and less corporate in a certain way, which got us back to making a great product and delivering a great experience.
Yeah. So how's your love versus fear doing? You said it's still a dance, but if you had to think about the amount of time at work creating or selling, because I think you do both, how's your love index going?
I'm pretty much all love right now.
Mhm.
I was so afraid of like being able to plug the computer in, but that's not real fear. That's just like a little bit of haze, and that's not how I run the company.
Yeah, yeah, of
We
course.
um we are all completely aligned on running the company right now from this perspective of the boundaries are loving. When we when we loosen up on the boundaries, that's the fear. That's not good business. And so we came up with good ideas, good operating procedures, good concepts that all fit with the strong backbone of the brand that we are. And now I have a small enough team with solid enough interests, um, that we're not really very fearful right now. And then the other thing too, which is really important to say, is that there's less on the line. When I had 65 people that all wanted to excel
Yep.
and all wanted to do the best that they could possibly do. And then I became the limiting factor because I didn't want to just sell more things. I realized how sensitive that whole dance was, and so I just realized for minimizing it, it makes everybody in the team happier. Yes, we're touching fewer people than we probably could, but that's how it works right now.
Yeah. I want to share, this is also on YouTube. So for those of you who haven't heard the HeySue podcast on YouTube, you can find it now. But I'm going to try to see if I can illustrate this. This will be a terrible rendition visually if you can see it, but my wedding ring and a few other custom pieces that you helped me design, Todd, all come from Todd Reed. And I consider myself the I don't know what I am. Am I the, like, I don't know. I'm like the intern of the Todd Reed customers or clients. And I appreciate, look, when I walk into Todd Reed, I am treated like royalty. So there is zero translation, even though obviously I'm not coming in to buy something that is a six-figure piece that you've created. Um, how do you think about selling? How do you think about designing products on a range from, say, the price of this wedding ring, which we don't have to get into, and in fact, I don't even know, to something that is really a much more meaningful investment for someone, and the kinds of clients that you bring in and how to treat those clients? Do you treat them differently? Do you treat them the same? What's your sales thinking about that?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And it goes along the lines of actually simplifying a lot of my brand. We've really simplified the sales cycle as well. I'm a persistent communicator, but the whole object is that everybody has a great time and feels met where they are. So if somebody comes in and maybe they just want to talk about jewelry. They're not at the point where they're ready to buy it. That's where they're met. I don't ever think about price or maybe somebody else should work with this person if it's not a six-figure sale. I don't do that. The associates are much better than I am at actually selling the work, talking about the work. I tend to look at every single situation the same. Like if somebody's coming in just to get their chain resized, or somebody's doing a talisman for a family member that was lost, or wanting something for their own evolution. They've just done a major transformation. They've evolved to a point they want to have a hallmark for it. I kind of meet it with not dollars first. And I even tell people, I say, we will definitely get to dollars, but I really want to focus on design. And because we're a maker, there's so many ways to make it. The dollar isn't the most important part. I think getting the needs met of the emotional needs, because we are trying to fill an emotional need when we buy a product, in my opinion. So I'm really interested in what that emotional need might be, because sometimes somebody might be coming in and wanting something, but when we're talking through it, it becomes really evident that they're really wanting something else. It maybe felt like they wanted a ring or something, but maybe they actually don't need another piece of jewelry. They might have needed to just be heard out, or they might need a full blown like you're suggesting, a really large piece because the thing just kept getting bigger and bigger. But I try not to have any expectations about what that end result is going to be until I've figured out what the emotional needs are. Because sometimes it can be a much smaller sale and have the emotional need met. So sometimes it can be more expensive. It doesn't, the dollar part comes in a little bit after the design part. And then the emotional need part is the leader of all of it.
And there's never been a time when you have breached that consciousness. Like there's never been a time where you sat down with a person who was in sales in your business and said, hey, we need to improve your time per conversation and
Mhm.
tie it closer to ROI. That's never happened around you.
No, it happens all the time. And this is the difference between me and the associates. So we as a company have to sell. And one of the things that I'm always interested is condensing the sales cycle, the timeline, because I'm very emotional. It could take 10 years for me to get a sale. That's like that's why I'm not the seller. I'm very good at sort of helping solve the issues, the parameters. I love the emotional stuff. Like I love it. But we are trying to end with an actual product. So that's where Kelly, Flora, Elaine, Caroline really are a little bit more able to say something like, and I can too, depending on who I'm talking to. This is how we'd like the timeline to go. We'll have the drawings to you by Friday. It would be great if we could hear from you at the latest by Wednesday. And then we can, consolidate our notes and start ordering materials. We'll get this in front of Todd, and we'd like to have all of this part done, by the 14th so that we can start manufacturing. So there is some
Yeah, there's
like
process there.
guided process. But it is always important to try to condense the sales cycle because also the people that we're working with, including yourself, you're not just sitting around waiting for us to call and have a 6 month long conversation about a ring. You want the ring. And so we have to constantly be in the push and pull of both sides to not push too hard, but to push enough to get the job actually done. Because people will lose interest if we take too long. Like if we're like, oh, we'll get you drawings next month, they might
Of
be like,
course. Yeah. Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah.
So
Of course. You brand, or your daughter brands, your
mhm,
company as art with authenticity. And
mhm.
I'm not even sure I could articulate what is so unique about the stones that you use. And I mean, the way that I'll just articulate it for myself, the way I see it as a customer or just a person on the outside, it's like, to me, it's raw, it's real. That's how your pieces feel to me. They are not unrefined, but they are not, I don't know how to explain it. You have better words than I do, but it's a really different positioning than almost any jeweler I've ever seen. Can you talk a little bit about that and also how authenticity runs through other areas of your company?
Yeah, it's actually something that's challenging for me to talk about also, Sue, and you're asking a great question because I created something that's actually very hard to talk about. And this is why the pieces have so much volume. Like listen, the conversation has so much to it. So if, it's like the talking points are very like here in the frontal lobe. And what we're doing is somewhere deeper. Um, so the authenticity is kind of in the nature of the process. So what I would describe an inauthentic transaction might be like, oh, it's Todd. We're going to make a ring for Todd. I bet he could afford a 6 carat diamond. Let's get him into that. Okay. That might be a traditional conversation behind the doors of a jewelry store.
Yeah.
Not good or bad, totally lovely. Um, our thing might be, she said she wanted to use the heirloom materials, but I actually think those heirloom materials have some negative story for her.
Mm.
Why don't we talk to her about using some new materials and passing those materials on to a charity, somebody else that doesn't have those embedded feelings? Because the idea is more important than the result. The result is going to embody the idea. So I don't
Yeah,
focus
that's
on the
cool.
result. I just focus on that, like, why would they want that when they stand for this? Like, those things
Yeah,
don't
that's
make
beautiful.
sense.
What a great
Um,
example.
so that's where I talk about when I say authenticity, it's not like, I mean, yeah, we have to run a business. So we're applying markups and we're buying things that aren't good and then we're reselling them because they weren't good enough to show the customer. We're doing all the things that are happening, but we're really trying to only share the parts that drive us towards the goal of what we're looking for. And that's an emotional goal. Because of course, you're not going to sit with me if it's not going to be aesthetically responsible.
Todd, there's something that really caught me that you, again, I'll probably get the words wrong and you'll correct me, but you, the last time I was in, you began showing us some boxes that you were creating, and they were boxes that could hold jewelry. They were not large boxes. They were a mix of beautiful materials. They were phenomenal. What I loved about them, and I think this is also true about the watch projects you're working on, is I think what you said is you like to have a hidden feature, something hidden in these products or these pieces that only the owner really knows about. And that's actually true in our wedding rings also. They also have a hidden feature that we would never have thought of. And what do you get from giving somebody something like that?
I get tremendous satisfaction and to be honest, I'm just wrestling this word in my mid 50s, but joy. I really think that having joy in what we do is important. And again, it takes it away. Yes, we're a business, but everything's a business. It's like you're trying to like make it raw, like what you said, means that everybody can't see it all on the surface. This has always been very important to me. I've related my jewelry to like the pith of an orange, many times in my life because, we see this like juicy thing. We don't really know what's on the inside. It could be rotten on the inside. It could be completely juicy and amazing on the inside. Like the pith is where I live. It's like I want to just look at the pith and find what's raw, true, and authentic underneath it, and then make that light. Like, who cares if I open up the orange and it's all like green and it's manky on the inside? It's not edible. It's still something. It's we've taken that skin off and we've shown what it is. But that wasn't for anybody who wasn't ready to take the skin off.
Mm.
So, in my experience, which I mean, I don't, this time on this planet, whatever, I've really noticed that we, as a culture, even me too, I don't always dig deep enough. I don't look underneath the rock. I look at the rock and I kind of would like to always look underneath and just see what's on the other side of the coin. Also helps me understand is if I'm going to be making these emotional pieces and they're going to have design and the philosophy is part of the design, those, the hidden things are a part of, like we all have these hidden things, but they're who we are. They make us up. So the hidden aspects of the jewelry are again part of the recipe of the jewelry. And not even everybody always has to know everything at all. I mean, sometimes they don't know at all what we put into it. It's not, I kind of do it for me. I want to do it with love. So we do all this stuff and sometimes I bet there's a lot of people that don't know. The little things, the little idiosyncrasies. I put 7 of these in because you mentioned that on your 7th birthday you watched somebody that did something and it changed your life and it made you observe color in a brighter way, and that stuck to me. So I didn't want to change the design, but I wanted to imprint that importance of that number in there. So I put 7 of those in. So.
That's beautiful. I just want to tell people listening that I have this wedding ring and I have oddly small fingers. And so when we went to get it sized, the diamonds, which I think, are they raw diamonds? Is that the right way to say that?
No, you have colorless white diamonds, silver diamonds, and black diamonds in your ring, but none of them are raw.
These diamonds that I have in this ring, when they went to resize it, I mean, they're not large. I'm not the 6 carat person who walked into the store, nor is my husband, but I mean, they're really small. Anyway, when they resized the ring, they intentionally offered to take the diamonds, these tiny diamonds that are in this beautiful ring from my ring, and embed them in the ring that we had made for my husband. So our rings are together. They're one piece. And I just think this is a really great example of this, something that is not hidden. My husband really loves talking about it, but it really is touching that was even a possibility, because I'm sure that was not the easiest way to do this. So thank you.
But you're welcome. But that is important. I just want to say, and maybe even if he didn't know that they were there, and I love that you guys share that, it would be important important to the ring.
Yeah, that's so
Like if a
cool.
tree falls in the woods and nobody
Yeah.
hears it, did it fall? Yes, it still fell. And these
Yeah,
things
right.
are still happening.
How do you think about, we've talked a lot about things you build for people because they express an interest or an emotion or something that turns into something physical. How do you think about these objects that you create, many of which are extraordinary? I mean, I give a lot of credit to your daughter, and you don't need incredible design on your website. You only need beautiful, clean photography and a lot of white space. And you make these things, and I mean, I don't want to be too crass, but some of them are made on spec, I guess, as a builder would say.
Many of them, yeah.
Yeah, that strikes me as risky, and that turns up my fear, and I don't even do it. How do you decide what and when to create something like that?
Um, this answer is a little bit less creative, but I always want to be honest. It has to do with hours, um, time. So when I look at a year or whatever, and we have maybe 8 or 10,000 production hours based on how many people I have working and their holidays and all their stuff. And about 80% of that would be filled in with special orders or pieces
Wow.
that I've connected with people on. And so only 20 to 25% of what I make is from just what I want to make. So when I get to that stage, one, I've collect raw material my whole life. So it has to, and I've been drawing, I draw every day. I think we've talked about this. I draw every day, whether I need to or not. I'm always making designs. And this is one of the things that will make the heritage brand successful. As long after I'm gone, there'll be tens of thousands of designs to pull from. It's literally based on time. Like
You
I
have the
go,
time.
I'm going to have 200 hours coming up this quarter. Gosh, I really wanted to use this suite of stones. I'm going to do it. It really has to do with time. Sometimes we start on a big project like that, something else will come in and we have to put it on hold. Sometimes I have 40 hours, not 200 hours, and I go, you know what? I wanted to make this set of stack rings for years. We just did one. I'm so excited about it. It's a really beautiful stack that I've never made before. But it happened because we had about 40 hours in between things.
Okay.
So,
You do stuff like a regular person does.
right.
Like someone one thing you do like a regular person or someone does on your team is you will have a Valentine's Day ad in the local paper or in a couple of
Yeah.
high-end magazines, and that will happen. And is there a time a year ahead of that or 6 months ahead where you're like, oh, Valentine's Day is coming, something with red might maybe should appear, one thing that we could put as the centerpiece of this ad? Do you think like that?
Right. I absolutely do. And it's a little bit like technology. It's like, where is the image? Where is I made in 87 this ring with this beautiful red stone in it, and I can't, can it's anybody find this thing? It'll be perfect. So it's all like coming from my brain, which is what I remember us making, because everything has like a number. It's like PRDR 7174444, 71,000 rings or whatever. We just give it a number. I do really think of that. And this is one of the great things about working with Flora, who I trust emphatically, my daughter in the social media area, and with Elaine, who's our general manager, where I get to say, like, why don't we explore, oh, this is the month of apple pies or whatever. I love things that are fun and quirky also. The Hallmark holidays, it's a little bit challenging because we don't really have a product that somebody can I can't have 10 people come in and buy that
Yes,
heart.
of course.
I
Yeah.
just don't have it. I think my advertising probably helps everyone because I'm simply saying this is, hey, you guys, it's Valentine's coming up, and I'm trying to be in the memory of people. I go back and forth between, will people just remember me? Probably not. I have to keep doing things and
Sure.
putting my name out there, but we have to do it in a way that isn't necessarily selling a product. 'Cause I don't actually have that product. I don't have like the little thing. And oddly enough, many years we have tried to make like a holiday charm, a Valentine's charm, a thing. And people think they want it from us, but they really don't. It doesn't have that punch, that impact, that love that the other pieces have in it. Cause
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
clear that I
yeah.
made something to sell in the
Yes.
holiday.
It's doesn't have authenticity in the same way.
Right. And that's a little bit of a drag. It would be cool if I could make something inauthentically and people would still buy it, but it reeks of inauthenticity right on the piece. And I get busted and I end up having to melt it and turn it
Yeah.
into a commission piece.
That's what you get for having a sophisticated audience, which brings me to my next question. One of the things that I cover in Never Ask for the Sale, my upcoming book, is this idea of walking around town marketing, like being a person in the world whom people begin to think about, even if it's way in the back of their mind, even if it doesn't pop to the front of their mind until 10 years later, that they think about as a person who has this thing they may one day want. The things that I have seen you do is I've seen you put on extraordinary events for your clients. Beautiful, magnificent Cirque du Soleil type. I don't even understand. I don't know if you still do that, but I was lucky enough to be invited a couple times and they were amazing. I've seen you create humbler events that feel super intimate where you're launching your watches as an idea and it's very simple. There's watches on the wall and a very, very simple straight up display. But you and I play at the same golf course and I don't know. Maybe you have a million people at that golf course that have shopped and purchased things for you over the years. You probably do because you're you. But you don't exactly seem to me to be rubbing shoulders with the people who can be routinely making six-figure purchases. It doesn't seem to be part of your game to me. So what is your game?
That's a great question, Sue. You are very good at asking a direct question. What is my game? I don't want to sound like unprofessional or unhuman, but I'm still figuring out my game. And that's a great question because there is a game to it. I talked to a gentleman who wrote a book on business years ago, and I shared some of my issues. And he said, Todd, you seem like you're trying to run a corporation like a corporate guy, but you like are this emotional, empathetic being who wants to share the emotional side, but you think you only have to share like the operational side because that's how you run a corporation. And I was like, well, yeah, that is basically me. And I share that because I'm torn between something that feels totally not like a game, like this is life. It's no game. I wake up, I have these ideas, there's these deadlines, there's people that matter, somebody getting married today, somebody getting married tomorrow, somebody that we had a commitment to give a value to their things, whatever it is, it's real. And I've always really thought that consistency builds trust. So I've really tried to be consistent with even my relationships. We worked with a gentleman this morning who, if I was really a good business person, I'd probably forget everybody else and only want to work with him and his team. And to be honest, it was like, I've got this podcast coming up. I'm really excited about it. I'm not going to be able to work on this tight timeline. That's probably not an incredibly good business move. I get people that want to rub shoulders with me sometimes. I've been very fortunate to meet amazing people, but I try to keep it very much about like, I want to say, because I do become friends with people, but I try to I don't want to keep it about the jewelry. I keep it about art. So in general, so my friendships, my relationships with these people, yes, I absolutely should take my top 5 customers who are the wealthiest people on the planet and just try to sell them stuff every day. But I wouldn't even know that would seem so inauthentic going back to the other way. And I don't have anybody on my team who's like, screw authenticity. Let's go for those guys. We have their phone numbers. I don't really have that team, and it might be the team that I've cultivated because of my lack of really strong business savvy. For many, many years, for like 30 years, I've been like, I wish I had somebody to help me with the business part. I love the art part, but I struggle with the business part. And this is a very good example of it. I should be rubbing shoulders with people that could do more for me.
Is that
But
true? Is it true? Like, first of all, I'm literally emotional. Like I have tears in my eyes. There's something about you that from the time I met you, I guess I personally relate so much to your work, even without you, that knowing you, it just adds so much incredible built-in value to your art to know you and listen to you talk the way that you talk. But one of the things I think about a lot is what percentage of time I'm in my zone of genius. It's a Gay Hendricks term that I talk about in my book. And he talks about well in the book, The Big Leap. I'm just mentioning that for listeners. And it's this idea of like the thing that I'm amazing at, that when I'm doing it, there is time falls away. Like it's just total flow. We're both hippies, so you know that concept. And like, is it true? Should you be more focused on that? Or my goal is to be 70% of the time in flow, in my zone of genius. And man, that's amazing to be like, this conversation is squarely in it. It's like, you're telling me I ask good direct questions. That is like, if there are three things I do well, that's one of them. With cool people who don't say like, stop asking such direct questions. It's like fantasy land for me. It's as good as it gets. So is there a higher, better use for my time than what I'm doing right now? No. And I'm just curious, not about this time for you and that guy, but just maybe it's exactly right.
I play with this. This is what's so great about philosophy and living in a life that doesn't really have any actual answers. I think that yeah, it is true. I really go back and forth, and I tell like in my office, I'm like, I feel like this is a story of the Mexican fisherman, which is such a beautiful, and I'm sure there's a Buddhist side of it too in all religions, but that you end up where you are. I cultivated a really beautiful brand at a certain age. It does this and it does this, and at the end, I'm right where I am. So that's probably right. That's probably correct. And you ask a really valid question. Like there are, yeah, I could be brushing shoulders, as you said. That could be great. I guess my desire would be that somebody else in the company would brush shoulders and I don't have to, because I feel like that's a little bit too much of an ask for me. It would feel a little bit inauthentic. Now, if these guys, they like really liked me and we were like really wanting to spend time together, then it's not really brushing shoulders. It's like, and I have many friends that could probably change my world instantaneously if they chose to, but that's not really an ask or a desire. Sometimes when I talk to my friends who are much more successful than I am, let's say financially, they remind me like, Todd, you have a great business. You do what you want to do. You work with the people you want to work with. You have a great, you have a great thing. You could definitely make it bigger, but you fought really hard to make it smaller. So,
Yes.
and in that, I love my relationships. And these are clients too. I have had many clients who I've sat in front of and dinner, and they'd say like, hey, if I gave you this, would it change your situation? Would it help you? And I'd say, thank you, but unfortunately, I don't know yet because the situation is somewhat philosophical. We all think that more might be awesome, but just enough I already know is awesome. Like,
That's great. I mean, this comes back to this concept, is in this book called Passionate Ambivalence. And at the end of the day, I think that's yours, is like whether you know it every day or not, whether you have conscious awareness that you have abundance of energy, life force, creativity, whether you know it or not on any given day, I don't know. But I think the fact that you have that as your reserve position, like even if this major piece does not sell on a Wednesday, I think you have so much inner security and so much alignment between what you do and who you are, that that's a hell of a fallback position.
yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think that that is maybe, I don't know. These are big questions. There's a whole nother podcast on what keeps us small and what keep, like maybe I'm afraid to get to say, I don't want to answer the phone any more times a day. I feel like, the other thing is I want to make art, and art
Yeah.
takes, spaciousness. And I've realized that it seems funny. Like I didn't go to art school, but I know many people who did. And it seemed like in art school, there was this way that we didn't want to be successful. Like success would be the antithesis of being an artist.
Yeah.
And I like to challenge that. I think we want to be in an abundance mindset all the all the way around. So if I want to be abundant in my creativity, then I really should have the capacity to be abundant on the other side of it, which is the sales side. And on that, I tend to rely on my team
Right.
to have the abundance.
Yeah. I have to say, Todd, I speak to so many companies in my day job,
Yeah.
my life. And I'm so interested, I mean, I love business the way you love art. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just, there's never a day, sometimes there's a day, but there's usually not a day where I am not fired up when it's
Mhm.
Monday. Like everybody's back to work. Stock market's open. Everything's great. You know, people will be emailing. It's much more exciting to me. And I think of all the businesses that I've talked to, maybe all, the one that I would be most interested in working with, except for the fact that I don't have the clothes or the personal style, would be yours. So if ever there's a background role, you know, just for me to like hang out and wear a t-shirt and sneakers and be accepted, I don't know. We don't need to talk about that. But I just want to let you know that's how much I believe in what you're doing and how much value it's added to my life, both literally and just philosophically. So thank you for doing this today. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Sue. I've really enjoyed our time, and we'll put a pin in that conversation for a later date. That sounds really nice.
That sounds great. Folks, thank you so much for getting this cherished chance to hear Todd Reed, the founder, the creator, the visionary behind Todd Reed Inc. Please visit Todd Reed, that's REED.com, and check out some of the beauty that he's been talking about for the last 45 minutes. Thanks for coming back to the HeySue podcast, now here on audio and also on video at YouTube. And we'll see you next time with another amazing visionary creator. Bye, everyone.